is the marriage, the Directed Marriage Initiative of Best Midrash and Trade. Let's give a nice live round of applause for Rebbe.
Thank you very much. Nice that they brought me in a week before of David Yosef for Marriage Yisrael to be the opening show. Whenever we want to do something, we always need to have a plan. And if we wanted, let's say, we decide we're going to build a house. You could have the best contractor, best engineer, you could have the best interior decorator, and you could use the best materials. But if you're missing the plan of what the house is supposed to look like, you're never going to be able to do anything, even with the best people. And the same is true with marriage. Very often we find that there are wonderful people who get married to each other, who are trying to live together, but they don't really know what the plan is. They didn't know what the plan was when they were dating. If you ask them, why are you getting married? They might say, I don't know, everyone else is. Seems like a good thing to do. The Torah says you have to do it. But they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. And then they get married, and if you ask them again a couple years later, it's not very, you don't get such clear answers as to what the goal is when we're trying to get married. And if you don't know what you're doing, then it's very hard to ask for directions. You stop someone, you roll down the window, hi, I need directions. Where? I'm not really sure where I'm going. They're not going to be able to help you too much. And it's the same thing is true. You get married and you don't really know what you're doing. Suddenly, you don't even know what to do with yourself. I got an email just this morning, last night, whatever you call it, 1:30 in the morning, from a couple I haven't met yet. And basically wrote, we don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong in our marriage, so we want to meet with you. So that's a sign of people that really don't know what this is all about. So what I'd like to do tonight is maybe try to give us a sense of direction as to what we are trying to do with our relationships with our spouses. In order to understand anything, we need to have a definition. If something is not defined, if we don't know what it is, then you can't really do anything. For example, you got a call about a shidduch. So we want to find out about a boy. Okay, what do you want to know about him? Is he Yarei Shemayim? Oh, it's a nice question to ask. Does he have Yirat Shemayim? But what is your definition of Yirat Shemayim? For some people, the definition of Yirat Shemayim is he goes to Minyan every day. For some people, a definition of Yirat Shemayim maybe he's very honest in his business. What is your definition? So you're going to ask me a question like that, and I don't know what to answer you, because I don't know what you call Yirat Shemayim. So it's very important to have definitions for things if we want to be able to accomplish something. So in order to define marriage, there are two words that are very often used, and that's what I'd like to explore tonight. Which one is the right one? One is partnership and one is relationship. What is the definition of a partnership? So if you look in Webster's dictionary, I don't know if anyone does that anymore, but if you would look there, a partnership is written over there, a relationship resembling a legal partnership and usually involving close cooperation between parties having specified and joint rights and responsibilities. Just to say that in slowly. It means two people are getting together, they want to accomplish something, and each of them have their jobs. And each of them have their responsibilities, and this is usually done to get to some type of benefit. Two people are coming together, they want to do something. You have a business partnership, so you have two people, they want to make money. So they get together and they decide to cooperate in order that they can make some money. So this person has this job and this responsibility, this person has this job and this responsibility. Great, we have a partnership, let's go. Doesn't sound so bad. Meaning, marriage also sounds like it should be close cooperation between two people, that sounds good, who have specific rights and responsibilities. So, person A, in our world we sometimes don't know who it is, can make the food, clean the house, and take care of the children. Person B will make the money, they'll take out the garbage, they'll get the car fixed. So each of them have their jobs, great, they're in cooperation, and sounds very good. So we have to sum up partnership in one sentence. It would be mutual responsibility for mutual profit. Meaning we're getting together and we're each having a responsibility in order to gain something and have a profit. What is the result of such a thing in a marriage? So I'll share with you a story. There was a couple that went to something called the World's Fair. For those of you that don't know what the World's Fair was, in Flushing Meadow Park, right over here, that big globe that I think still sits there, I imagine, right? That was from the World's Fair, I think before I was born even. Okay, but 64. That was before I was born by 7 years. Okay, so the globe is sitting there. They used to have a World's Fair, I don't even know if they still have it, where everyone gets together and there's rides and there's attractions and all types of things. So there's a couple that used to go to the World's Fair every year. And every year, there used to be a plane ride where a guy would just take you up on an airplane, and it cost $50. And every year, this husband used to go to his wife and say, look, I really would like to go on the plane. So the wife's like, look, I understand, but we're not doing it. $50 is $50. We're not going. And this went on year after year after year. And finally, the guy's 85 years old. They come to the World's Fair again. He turns to his wife and he says, listen, I don't know how many years I have left. Can you please do me a favor? Once, let me go up on the plane ride, and let's go up on the plane together and do this. So his wife said, look, I don't know what to tell you. $50 is $50. We're not going on the plane. So the pilot of the airplane, he overhears the conversation, and he turns to the couple and he says, listen, I see you really want to do this. The money is too expensive. I'll make you a deal. You guys could come on the plane for free on one condition. You don't say a word the whole time you're up there. So the husband looks at his wife. So I was like, fine, I guess here's your chance. We'll go up, we'll keep quiet, you'll get your free plane ride at the World's Fair like you always wanted. So the captain takes them up on the airplane, and he's trying to get them to make some noise, so he starts doing zigzags and flipping up and down and turning over and doing everything, and sure enough, total silence from the back. So the guy lands his plane, he turns back towards the guy, and he said, look, I can't believe it, you did an amazing job. I really thought for sure you guys would talk while I was doing all those flips. How'd you keep quiet? So the husband said, you know what, it was really hard. And especially when you did that last flip 15 minutes ago, but my wife, when she fell out of the plane, it was really hard not to say anything. But hey, $50 is $50. That is how a marriage partnership looks. There's a bottom line of, hey, what can you do? This is what you have to do, and this is what I have to do. Meaning that in a partnership marriage, you will find that husbands and wives are keeping score with each other. One person's thinking, I did this for you, so you have to do this for me, and the other one's thinking, I did that for you, and you have to do this for me. Because that's what a partnership is. If we were in business together, we would also be very worried about, hey, I'm doing 50% of the work, why aren't you doing 50% of the work? You're not doing your share, I'm doing my share. That's what a partnership is. And if the partnership is going to stay, then everyone is always watching the other person to make sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And once we feel we're doing more than the other side, then we come with complaints against them. And there might be a point of this that's even worse. Because we all know in a marriage, the midah that's probably the most destructive is being selfish. And in a partnership, people feel they have to be selfish. They have to look out for themselves. They have to make sure that they're not getting shafted, and that the agreement is being held to. And therefore, we're focused on always looking at, am I getting what I'm supposed to be getting? And that creates a very selfish attitude in the marriage. And very often, the lack of stability that some people feel in their relationship is because they're living in a partnership. They're constantly thinking, am I getting enough? Am I not getting enough? Is this the way it's supposed to be? And they end up just being focused on the fact that, hey, maybe I'm losing out over here because I'm not getting what I'm supposed to be getting from the other person. This is what a partnership is, and it's not what a marriage is supposed to be. A marriage is supposed to be a relationship. What's a relationship? As opposed to two separate entities working together, a relationship means we're one entity. There is no me, there is no you, there's only an us. The Chazon Ish described this very well. The Chazon Ish wrote in a letter that the way a marriage is supposed to be is like the right arm and the left arm of a body. That's all he wrote. So I had a Rebbe who was a Talmud of the Chazon Ish, so I heard this fourth generation. But he said that the Talmud of the Chazon Ish said that what this means is as follows. If you have a person who, unfortunately, he goes and he breaks an arm. Breaks his right arm, so for 6 weeks his right arm is in a cast, his left arm is doing everything. And after 6 weeks the cast comes off. The guy says, okay, right arm, listen, the left arm's been doing everything for 6 weeks. Left arm, you could take a rest for 6 weeks. Right arm, you do everything. I think we'd all call that guy crazy. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would we think he's crazy? Because you have one body. If you have one body, then each arm does whatever the body needs. Sometimes the right arm does more, sometimes the left arm does more. But each arm is always doing whatever the body needs. So the Chazon Ish said that's what marriage is supposed to be. Marriage is not about me doing and you doing. Marriage is about whatever this body called our marriage is, that's what we both need to be doing in our marriage. And in order for us to get to that level that we feel that there isn't a you and there isn't a me, there's an us, so we have to create that us. What does it mean to create an us? It means that each person has to make room inside themselves for the other person. In a partnership, I don't need to be your best friend. I don't need for you to care about me. We just have to get the job done. You have to do your share, I have to do my share. We make money, everyone's happy. In marriage, in order to create the relationship where there is no you and no me, that means I have to let you inside of me, and you have to let me inside of you. And this has nothing to do with whether or not you are doing your job, you're not doing your job. It even has nothing to do with the reason why you married the other person. You could have married them for many different reasons. But right now, if I want to create a bond with you, those reasons are pretty irrelevant. I need to let you inside of me, and you have to let me inside of you. Let's explain this a little bit further. Chazal tell us in Pirkei Avos that the only love that lasts is what's called an ava she'ina tluya b'davar, a love that's not dependent on anything else. A love that's dependent on something cannot last. A love that's dependent on nothing can last. Why is this true? Because if your love is dependent on nothing, then it's always stable. As long as I am dedicated to loving you and I'm making the choice to love you, so it doesn't matter what you do. The love is always there. But if the ava is tluya b'davar, then that love is always going to be fluctuating. If my love of my wife would be dependent on her making a good dinner for me, then some nights I love her and some nights I don't. Some nights the food's good, some nights it's better, some nights maybe she doesn't even make dinner. But that means my marriage is a roller coaster, up and down, because it's all dependent on this factor. And we all get married to each other for many different reasons. But as long as we're tied to those reasons and our love is tied to those reasons, it means that we can never have a stable relationship. What's supposed to start happening at the chuppah and continue is to love the person as a choice. We're just choosing to love them. And we're slowly supposed to move from an ava shetluya b'davar when we get married to a love that's dependent on nothing else. Living with a partnership hurts this. Because living in a partnership, first of all, means that my love is going to be dependent on you fulfilling your side of the partnership. And it also hurts this because when you're not fulfilling this part of the partnership, there's a lot of anger and resentment that comes between two people because the other side is not fulfilling their share of the partnership. This kills the growth of the relationship and doesn't allow people to really meet to make this deep, meaningful connection. So how do we build this relationship? So the first thing we need, like we said, is our goal has to be that we want to get to a point that our love is dependent on nothing. And this is very hard for a lot of us. Because in some ways we feel that as long as our love is dependent on something, I could control the other person. If I tell them my love is dependent on having a good dinner every night, that means I'm in control. I could hold it over her head. You must make me a good dinner or I'm not going to love you. And people use their ava shetluya b'davar as a way of trying to control the other person. And it's hard to give up that control. So our goal first has to be to let go. To let go and just to decide to love this person for no other reason other than I'm choosing to love them. Roles and jobs in a marriage are fine if they are not looked at as an obligation. If we each fall into our role, this guy has to make the money, or sometimes the woman has to make the money, and sometimes the man has to make the food, sometimes the woman does. But whatever it is, as long as we're not looking at it as if the other person doesn't do this, but rather we see it as a function of our relationship, that we're each trying to do whatever we can for this body called a marriage, then everything will be good. We won't get upset at the other person when they don't do the job that we think they're supposed to do. And when they do it, we'll have a lot of akar satov towards them. A lot of gratitude. And so often we don't have the gratitude that we were supposed to have for the other person because we think, this is what they're supposed to do. Why should I thank them? In reality, no one is supposed to do anything. It's just as much your responsibility to make the food as your responsibility to make the food. You know why? Because we're married. And if we're married, there's one body. And if there's one body, we both have the responsibility to try to help that body function as great as possible. So these two things together is what help the relationship grow. It's not making your love dependent on anything, and it's also the realization that we're supposed to get to this us as opposed to me and you. So how do we get there? How do we generate these feelings of closeness? I don't know where I heard this from. It's almost Torah-like. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But there's a word in English that means closeness, and that is intimacy. And if you break down that word into parts, it comes out to into me. See? Meaning the closeness is generated by the fact that you could see into another person. When you get to know someone better, when you get to really see what's going on inside them, you feel close to them. If you've ever read a biography about someone, whether it's a gadol or anybody else, you open a book, you read 500 pages about them. You close the book, you feel you know them. You feel like, you had something to do with them, even if you've never met them. The way to get close to people is through getting to know them. In fact, Rashi in Parshas Vayera, Perek Yechet, Pasuk Yutet, writes this. Rashi writes, Shamachavi v'sa'adam mekarvot etzlo v'yodo umakiro. Someone who you want to love, you bring them close to you and you get to know them. That's how you get to really love someone. So the way to feel connected to the other person, to allow them to get inside of you, is for each person to let the other person really see what's going on inside of them. And here is something that many people have difficulty being nowadays, and that is real. Being real with someone means that you're really showing them what's going on inside of you when you're talking to them. There's not so many real interactions that we have nowadays anymore. You call up your bank, and there's a recording on there. We are so happy you called. All we want to do is please you. Please stay on the line, And you hear these things over and over again, but unfortunately if it was just a recording, that would be one thing. But when it's the teller, and when it's everyone, and all they're saying are things that are fed to them with absolutely no real meaning to them, so this desensitizes us to what it means to have a real interaction with somebody. One time I was speaking to a chatan, and he was telling me how he spoke to a certain Rebbe in his yeshiva, and the Rebbe in the yeshiva was telling him, when you get to the Cheder Yichud after the wedding, tell your kala this and this and this. And I was like, no, don't do that. He's like, why? These are very nice things. I said, they are nice things, but then your Rebbe's talking in the Yichud room and not you. Your wife didn't marry your Rebbe that she wants to hear what your Rebbe has to say. Your wife married you. Whoever the real person in you inside is, that's who she should be hearing. Whatever you say should be something real coming from you. So if we want to connect to people in general, and with our husbands and wives in particular, we have to be real with them. And when we're dating, we're not real with the other person. Maybe we're real 5%, 10% maybe. We're trying to put on a show. We're trying to show the best sides of ourselves, and that's wonderful. And then we get married, and we don't know the person so well. So again, we're not so real with them. Maybe we don't tell them that, we fell asleep during Kriyas HaTorah in shul. Maybe we won't tell them that we burnt the challah and we threw it out, and this is the second try. We're scared to be real with our spouses. But if we don't grow out of that slowly, and we don't become real with the other person, you can never connect to that person. It's impossible to connect to another human being unless there's two real people in the room. And I want to add one other point. When we look at the world today, as opposed to 20 years ago, someone would ask, what's the biggest difference in the world? I think the answer everyone would come up with is internet. The thing that's probably changed the most, and changed society the most, is that. What is this, this, I don't know if you want to call it it's a horror. I'm not talking about doing any averos on the internet, but what is this thing that everyone just loves being on the internet? So the answer, I think, is that I would call it curiosity or some type of sense of excitement. Meaning that there's something there we're going to see new. There's something there that I don't know about that's going to come and I'm going to see, and I'm able to, and not only that, but I'm able to get to it so quickly. I'm able to see or hear or read something new that I didn't have before. And our society has become driven by excitement. And we all need something exciting to get us going and to do, and it's come into the schools, where, it's almost as if a teacher has to dance on the desk to get the kids' attention. There has to be some type of excitement in order to get us moving. And then we get married, and we all go to weddings, and weddings are really exciting. So if someone's single, they go to a wedding, well, this is great, I want to get married. This is really exciting. And very often the beginning of marriage is really exciting. And society is all about excitement. But getting to know another person well is not exciting. It really isn't. Maybe every so often you'll hear something really interesting like, wow, I can't believe you did that. Did you really take the teacher's watch and turn the time ahead 45 minutes that he let you guys out early for recess? Yes, I did, but I'm not proud of it. But whatever. But, but sometimes you'll find that's something that's a little bit exciting to you. But getting to know another person is not exciting. So people, instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing in order to connect to the other person, they get married and they just look for excitement. So in the beginning it's exciting, the excitement's going away, so then they try to figure out, maybe we have to go to the Caribbean. Maybe we need to move to a different house. Maybe we need to have guests over and entertain them. Maybe, then who knows what we need to do. But the excitement starts to wane after the wedding, and we have to find something to keep things exciting. And it's not exciting to get to know another person. But you know what? Excitement doesn't last either. And Hashem knew that if you want a marriage to last, it's not through excitement. It's through depth. When you really get to know someone in a deep way, and you have a real person in front of you, and you're talking as a real person, and you get to know someone deeper and deeper, and you get to understand them more and more. So this is what develops a relationship. And not only that, but when someone has this, they don't need the exciting anymore. They don't need to go on try to find fancy vacations or fancy things to do. Not saying people can't go on vacation, but they don't need exciting. The depth is what they need. The best vacation in the world is me and my wife on some mountaintop in a house, probably with no electricity. Right? That's probably the best vacation in the world, because you know what you're left to do? There's only one thing left to do. Talk. That's it. And that's depth. And that's where we need to get to if we want to develop a proper relationship. We have to prioritize getting to know our spouse in depth. And it's not dependent on necessarily how much time you have, but it's really on what you do with your time. I want to give you an example, or two examples. Husband comes home from work one night. His wife's very upset because the kids are still awake and it's 9:30 at night. So there are various different reactions the husband can have at that point. One is, and don't think some people don't do this, they tell their wife, I'm going back out, call me when the kids are sleeping. Okay, that's one reaction. All right? Nobody try that at home. Okay? But unfortunately, there's people like that. Some people will go to their wife and say, don't be so upset. It's okay. Okay, that seems pretty nice. Telling her, not to be upset at the situation. Or sometimes you even have a husband that says, you know what, I'll put them to sleep. You go sit down. That's a very, very nice. After a whole day of work, realizing your wife's having a hard time, very nice. All of those are very good. But if he never explored the situation to see, why are you so upset that the kids aren't sleeping? Now, I'm not saying you should do it in the moment, because it could be at that point, she just wants to run as far away as possible to just get a break. But if he never turned to her at some point and said, by the way, why are you so upset when the kids weren't sleeping the other night? And to hear what's going on inside. There could be so many things going on inside. I was really upset because I wanted you to have a quiet house when you got home. I was really upset because I wasn't able to make you dinner. I was really upset because now tomorrow morning the kids are going to not want to get out of bed and go to school. I was really upset because I feel I'm a failure as a mother because I can't get the kids to sleep on time tonight. I'm really upset because the neighbor came over and saw that our house is a circus. There's so many possible reasons as to why the wife might be upset in that case. And if you never ask the question, then you're losing out on the opportunity to really find out a lot more about the other person and to create that intimacy, to create that closeness. I'll give you an example in the reverse. Husband come home one night from his learning, and the wife sees, something's wrong. What's wrong? My chavrusa said he doesn't want to live with me anymore. Oh, okay. I'm really sorry about that. You want some dinner? Okay, not bad. I feel really bad for you. Maybe I can, do something for you. That's also nice. But if the question is never asked, what makes you so upset about that? And again, here too, there could be numerous reasons. I feel like a failure. It's humiliating. It was a hit to my ego. I was ready to dump him and he got me first. There's so many reasons why he could be upset at it. And if we don't take advantage of these opportunities in order to learn more about who the other person is, then we're losing out on our ability to get close to them. So there's some practical pieces to this that also need to be implemented. One is obviously there has to be time. There has to be time to talk to the other person. Everybody's busy. Some of us very busy, some of us even more busy than that. But one thing is for sure, and that is on things that we really deem important, we all make the time. There is no one that doesn't make time for the things that are very important to them. This has to become something that is important for every couple in order for people to develop a relationship. So many times there are marriages that actually start as a relationship. And then people start getting busy. And then what happens? Well, he has to do carpool and she has to go grocery shopping and he goes to his job. She goes to her job. Someone has to pick the baby up from the babysitter. And the relationship that used to be there when they weren't so busy suddenly just goes away. And they're just left with a partnership. Him doing his job, her doing her job. And in our world, it's so easy to fall into this. And if we have fallen into this, we have to get out of it. There really should be almost no day that goes by without time that is spent getting to know the other person better. Sometimes it's more challenging as your kids get older. I'm saying Baruch Hashem, I already have 2 daughters that are married and teenagers in the house. So we used to sit on the couch at night, be able to talk. Now we have to either lock ourselves into the bedroom, we have to leave the house, we have to go into a car. It does become more challenging at some point. But it is something that we have to realize it's a necessity. It is not a luxury. The second thing is when we speak to the other persons, we have to have a focus. We have to give them our full headspace. They did a study, I have the source for it somewhere, where they tested people's brains when they had a phone on silent in their pocket to see if they were distracted more than someone without a phone. And the answer was yes. They found they were distracted. Just by having a phone in their pocket on silent just distracted them more. When it comes to something so important as to paying attention to the other person, there is no such thing as 99%. Because 99% is almost a zero. Because there's a part of you that's not there, and the other person feels that part of you is not there, then it's going to lose the moment that is needed. So during the time that you're trying to accomplish this connection, and it's not the whole night, it might be part of the night, it might be you dedicate 20 minutes, half an hour, but whatever time you do dedicate to getting to know the person better, there can't be any distractions. And those distractions don't only have to be a phone. They could be other things. It could be that it's a distraction because you have to, leave in 20 minutes. That's going to be a distraction. That might not be the best time to talk. Again, if there's children around, they could be distracting. If you want to accomplish this goal, it has to be done with full headspace. So finding the time and giving the full headspace to the other person on a consistent basis, it's what is going to build a relationship and help you get out of partnership mode. The more this is done, the more natural love develops. Where do we see this the most? Probably with children, where the relationship that most parents have with their kids is one of constantly getting to know them more and more. It's a love that's not dependent on anything. And as the years go by, that natural love continues to develop. There's another benefit to this, and that is that the more we focus on getting to know the other person better, and the more that we start to feel the depth in the relationship and the wonderful feelings of closeness that come with it, the less we focus on the externals. The less we care about all these other things. There's times, you have a situation where a wife does something, she forgot to have dinner on the table, or she, didn't take care of something, whatever it is, and she says, I hope you're not upset at me. The answer should always be, how could I be upset at you? This isn't what this is all about. It's not about missing dinner one night. We're all human. Even if you made a mistake, we all make mistakes. It's not about running the errand. It's not about how you look. What it's about is that we're very closely connected. And just like with ourselves, because we love ourselves, when we do things that are wrong and we mess up a little bit, we say, okay, nobody's perfect, and we go further, and we continue to love ourselves. That's what we're supposed to get to with our spouses. I do want to finish off by saying that everything that I've said tonight, I will take questions afterwards if there are any, is much easier said than done. The fact that I have the zchut to be up here and to speak about it has been through many, many years of not only telling other people this, but through living it. In fact, when I teach other people to be chassan teachers, they say, when am I ready to teach? No one's ready to teach until they live it. When you live what you're teaching, and I'm not talking about the halachot, I'm talking about the hadracha and the hashkafa and all those types of things that I teach chatanim. When you're talking about all these things, you're not ready to teach until you live it. You have to live it first. And it's only after living it can, hope my wife agrees, can you get up and speak about it. So tonight was really just the tip of the iceberg. I just really wanted to give people some ideas to think about, some ideas that they could work on. For anyone that's interested in what the marriage initiative is, I brought cards here. People could take a look at that. There's an email on the bottom that they could reach me, or through Chazaq they could also reach me. I'd like to thank Chazaq for having me and thank everyone for coming. Are there any questions? Questions? Yes.
You said that in marriage it's about getting to know each other. I do agree. But after a while, you know so much about him, you know so much about you. How much can you keep going and you're getting to know each other?
Do you ever run on a treadmill?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it's supposed to be. Meaning, a human being, every person, is not only very different than every other person, but people are changing during the course of life. I tell people when you get married, I say, whoever you're marrying now, they're going to be very different in 10 years, and so will you. It could be when you get married that the wife thought, I want to be a speech therapist. And 5 years later, with 2 kids at home, she's like, I just want to stay at home with the kids. And 5 years and another kid later, she's like, I got to get out of the house, I'm going to be a speech therapist. And 5 years later, she'll be like, you know what, I want to just go be an accountant. I've had enough of speech therapy. And that same thing could be true with a man. People are always changing, not only in their careers, but in what their values are, in what's important to them, in how they view different things in the world. There is no end to getting to know another person. Absolutely none. So as well as we slowly get to know our spouses, there's always room to grow. And I think if we watch carefully, we will always see new things that we didn't know about them that come up. And hopefully those things will be actually things, that impress us. I can tell you I've been married 24 years, that, through the years to how many times I've just looked at my wife and I was so impressed with different things that she did. And they were things I wasn't expecting. When I married her, for sure, I didn't know this aspect about her. But it was something new, and a moment came, and, she rose to the occasion. Or sometimes she'll experience pain that someone said something. I didn't realize she was sensitive to a certain comment that someone might make. But the reality is that even if we had hundreds of years here, it still wouldn't be enough to get to know another person.
Key ways to get to really get to know your spouse.
So maybe I didn't say this clearly in the examples I gave, but to ask why. Meaning, if whatever happens, don't just leave the facts on the table. I had a good day, I had a bad day. What made today good? What made today bad? He's going to share things with you. And if he tells you, today was good because we made $5,000, what makes you feel good? Why does that make you feel good? So he might say, I feel like I'm successful. He might say, the family will go on vacation now. He might say, because now my boss will give me a promotion. Who knows what he's going to say? There are a lot of things he could say, and you don't know the answer. So when he tells you different things, about how was the tefillah and shul on Rosh Hashanah, and he tells you a fact, it was very inspiring. What made it inspiring to you? To you. Yes, but to you. Right? It has to be, I want to know what made it inspiring to you. I don't know if people say, there was a great chazan. Okay, very nice, but to me that's not inspiring. To him it might be very inspiring. He might like chazanot. But to ask questions that will allow you to get to know him better. It's very interesting because sometimes when people are dating, they go out on a bunch of dates and they come back, 5-6 dates, how's everything? Good. But I have no feelings for the other person. So I remember I asked my Rebbe once, what do you tell these people that say they've gone out numerous times and they have no feelings for the other person, but on paper everything's very good? He said the first thing to check is what's happening on the date. What are they talking about? Are they talking about facts and opinions, or are they sharing feelings? If he noticed that he hasn't shared any feelings with the other person, then tell them on the next date he should make sure to ask certain things about sharing feelings, that they could share feelings with each other. Sure enough, that was it. Once you open up and share yourself with the other person, that's what builds the connection. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you allowed to say hi to that rabbi outside? Like, you're not always supposed to say hi. It's not like you're gonna pretend that they don't know you. It's not.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, the question is when she sees, let's say, a rabbi outside, is it the right thing to do to say hi to them, or is it not the right thing to do to say hi to them? It seems to be from the strict language of the Shulchan Aruch that a man and a woman in general are not supposed to, it's not the best thing to do to say hi to each other. At the same time, when you're in a certain society where it's expected that people do, then it could be not saying hi might cause some type of chilul Hashem. So it really would depend on, the situation. If the rabbi is someone who's expecting you not to say hi to him, chances are then that's what you're supposed to do. If for whatever reason he would be expecting, or part of his feeling as being the rabbi is that he says hi to everyone to do it, so then it could be the right thing to do would be to do that. But it's not. So I would say if he doesn't say hello to you, then the best thing to do is probably not to say hello to him. So again, in my opinion, I'm not saying, but it really depends on the community that you're part of. Right. So again, I don't know the community here so well. I have a few Bukhari and Talmidim, but so I like it's hard for me to answer the question without knowing the situation. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. If anyone wants to see more about the program, there's some cards up here.